Hey, how's everyone doing today? I hope your day is going amazing. Now, I normally don't make vlogs. I don't normally make videos of myself talking about anything because for me it's not a particularly enjoyable thing to do. But I'm choosing to do this because I feel like what I'm about to say really needs to be said and heard. Here we go. Hello, dear friends on YouTube, Facebook, or whoever may see this. My name is Johnny. And I'm an alcoholic. No, not really. No. I'm an aspie. Do you know what that means? It means that I have Asperger's syndrome, which is a form of autism. And by the way, I do love corny jokes. So if anyone has any, hit me up. I just want to take a few minutes and talk to you all about Asperger's and what it really means to me, and also what it's like to have it and how my life has been impacted by being on the spectrum. There are so many huge icons and advocates of autism and Asperger's that I always look up to and strive to be like every single day of my life. But at the same time, I'm trying to be me. The person you see before you on the center of your screen right now is not the same person he was a year ago, even 2 years ago, hell, 10 years ago. The human mind is programmed to develop and keep growing as we age and mature. I'm going to tell you a little story about myself. When I was about 3 or 4 years old, I was diagnosed with Asperger's. And back then, I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know what it was. I didn't even know I was diagnosed. I was always wondering why I would have to go to this office far away from home every single week. And as a young child, I would not pay any attention to what's really going on around me. But I'm trapped inside my own aspie world. Now, up until I was about 8 years old, I just thought that I was a bad kid. And I went without knowing that I had Asperger's, that I had something that necessarily made all these typical problems of an autistic person that made it not really my fault. Up until I was 8. I just thought I was a bad kid. Not a lot of kids approached me. I didn't have a lot of friends. Nobody really wanted to talk much. I was too afraid to talk to them as well. And I didn't know what I was supposed to do. And believe it or not, I still struggle with the same issue today. But it's getting better. The one amazing thing Asperger's gave me was an intense interest and passion for music. And it's always been there throughout my life. I've gone to bed with my parents playing Beatles music on the radio. And I would fall asleep like as happy as I could. It was good music. And that's why I chose to be a music major in college, because it's a huge part of my life and it's what's keeping me going. It's a good tool. And each aspie or person with autism has something they are unbelievable at. As the years passed, throughout my childhood, I was constantly working very hard to develop new skills, and believe it or not, these are very basic skills, such as tying a shoe, staying focused, being able to write effectively, being able to develop muscles, being able to, learn, and to be able to be a great person to be around. And my biggest issue as a child was my temper and emotions. And it was never difficult for anyone to get under my skin. You could say something very simple to me back then. You'd get the reaction. And that's what made me a very easy target for bullying in school. Public school is very difficult for a neurotypical person to a certain degree. But for an aspie, it's like walking through the unknown path. You don't know where the hell you're going. In the neurotypical student's mind, they learn to be part of the community, join the majority, and conform and be a part of the modern culture. And here comes the typical aspie. You better watch out. Very intense, very focused on him or herself and his or her interests, and just trying to make it through their day as easily as they can. Sadly, people may see this as lazy, counterproductive, weird, and this is a term that I hate to freaking use, retarded. And on a quick side note, calling someone with any mental disorder, whether it be autism, Tourette's, depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, and the list goes on, retarded is as hurtful as calling an African American person the N-word. It's just socially unacceptable, and people have to realize that difference isn't always a terrible thing. Continuing on, terms go on like unmotivated, and there's many more after that just go on, approximately the length of an enormous freight train. What a lot of neurotypicals do not realize is that every single day for an aspie is a challenge, because all our lives are spent trying to get people to realize that we're not crazy or different, but that we are just like you, but just a little bit fine-tuned. And believe me, I'm not trying to say that aspies are better than normal people, or that aspies are better than anybody, or saying that you're less. Trust me. But the way I like to think of Asperger's is like a car engine. Think of their brain as a car engine, but with modifications. You know, you got turbo, you got nitro power. Keep going. List goes on. Now, what happens when an engine is modified? Accommodations have to be made in order for the engine to work as efficiently and as possible to the best of its ability. And that's why people with disabilities in public school have IEPs. Simple as that. With a neurotypical, just put gas inside it, regular gas, start it up, and it goes. Clearly, there's a lot less going on in the neurotypical's engine. But as I said, the human mind just keeps growing and developing, even with a tune-up such as Asperger's. Now, this is a Facebook status that I wrote not too long ago, probably a week ago or two. I was reading a lot of articles about Asperger's in the dating world and how it affects the dating, being an aspie. I have to be curious about this kind of stuff. Any man with Asperger's has to wonder these exact same things. I love reading articles about autism and Asperger's. They teach me something new each time. For example, one article in particular says that people with autism or Asperger's talk only about themselves and their interests and obsessions, which I believe is a very extreme term. Obsessions may come off as a hurtful term and a very, kind of harsh term to say. Because what may be an obsession to an outsider, to the aspie, their life is devoted to it. A bunch of articles also suggest that autistic people will never pick up on social cues, hints, white lies, and whatever else may be involved in conversation. And a lot of articles never, and you won't believe this, look on each article, they'll never mention that not all people on the spectrum have the most extreme cases of autism or Asperger's. There are a ton of levels of autism that it would take me over a freaking hour to list them all. Look at this chart and you'll see what I mean. Now, I'm sorry if this chart is confusing, but if you look really closely, you got neurotypical, you got Asperger's, you have mildly autistic, you have generally autistic, so average, and this right here is severely. And imagine this is a straight line because I didn't have enough room on this piece of paper. And yes, this is a chart. If you imagine between each one of these categories here, that there's just a little invisible line between each one of these. So between here, 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 and here. Now, we'll just take neurotypicals and Asperger's for an example. Between this little range right here are the various cases between neurotypical and Asperger's, and I'd say I'm about right here. I've got both qualities. Apply the same concept to the rest of the chart. Now, before I ramble more about the makeshift chart, I just want to make people aware that people with autism or any other disabilities are no different than you. Besides their unique brains, there is always something incredible that you can learn from people with a disability. By the way, I'm sorry if you couldn't see the chart. I have two cameras set up here and I'm looking at the wrong one. Now, my case of Asperger's is invisible. I haven't met one person in the last few years who has not told me, if you didn't tell me that you had Asperger's, I would never have assumed it or guessed it. And to me, it's a compliment, but at the same time, it's kind of a kick in the nuts, because it sometimes makes me wonder if I should say anything in the future. Now, of course, there's some people that tell me to tell absolutely no one, and it's nobody's business. And no one wants to know it. But to me, I don't care. I'm proud to be who I am. I'm proud to be an Aspie, and I'm extremely proud of who I become throughout my almost 19 years of life. And if anyone decides that Asperger's categorizes me as different, then that just shows how much of a person that they are. If anyone has any questions about autism and Asperger's, please don't hesitate to shoot me a message or comment on my video before you go to Google. Don't believe everything you see on the internet. I'd be happy to answer the questions and clear up any misconceptions about this remarkable way of life. And you know what? I refuse to call it a mental disorder, disease, issue, etc. Autistic people and Aspies need to learn to love themselves and embrace who they are and not be told that they have a problem. It's time to make autism a positive word in this world rather than a scary and negative word. Now, before you ask some questions, here's some common questions and misconceptions about autism and Asperger's that I'll answer right here and clear up. The first one's a misconception, and it's that children with Asperger's or autism grow out of it eventually. It's not as simple as that. Yes, the effects of Asperger's do decrease dramatically as you get older and more life and social experience. But the work that an Aspie has to put in is a lot more than you think. I was fortunate enough to start working on myself right after I got diagnosed. I'd have to go to the social worker in school and talk to her and figure out what I needed to do to make things easier. And eventually, this is a very personal subject. Not a lot of Aspies will tell you this. And eventually, medication came into the equation, which helped relax my brain significantly. And after almost 19 years of having Asperger's, my hope has increased dramatically that life is just going to continue to show me the route of where to go. But I also have to keep my head up and be as optimistic as I possibly can be. And that's what I'm doing. Life's getting better. And it will for you too. I promise. And another misconception may be that adults with Asperger's don't get married. And that's not true. Plenty of Aspies can develop the skills to meet significant others in the world. And the hardest part about that is to be able to recognize the signs and the unspoken cues of whether or not he or she is into you or not. Which is a common reason that Aspies sometimes feel rejected or less confident in the dating world. Patience is the key. And figuring out what these cues are and how to feed into them will eventually lead you into success. And I'm still learning. Believe me. We're all living here. We live and we learn. And a message to neurotypical men and women out there that know someone with Asperger's or autism and has considered starting a relationship with them. And if you do start a relationship with someone that has autism or Asperger's, my advice to you is to be as upfront with them as you can. Because it will only provide closure for them, and it'll make it easier to to identify problems that may occur in the relationship and to fix them. To play Blue's Clues with someone that has Asperger's is only going to confuse them and make them wonder what they did wrong. Sometimes they know, but sometimes they'll forget. And sometimes they will do something that they won't even think is wrong because they just don't have that awareness yet. But it develops. And not all aspies are like that. B, the special oil required for their tuned engine so that they can work efficiently. Not all aspies can not pick up cues and figure out the true meaning of a statement, which also leads me to my next point. All autistic people, and Asperger's or aspies don't understand unspoken cues. And that's not true. That's a myth. That's another misconception. And it's a little extreme. All autistic people or aspies don't understand unspoken cues. It's extreme. I'm an aspie, and I'm learning to pick up cues and unspoken messages through playing jazz, actually, believe it or not. And prepare for the aspie and interest talk. Run for the hills, here comes my obsession. When a jazz combo plays a song, something new and spontaneous erupts within the song. It could range from a new way to phrase the melody, playing the certain things in an improvised context, or even in a solo to get the band to respond. It's all about interaction. And most importantly, keeping everyone in tune with each other. And no pun intended. Every musician on the bandstand should know what is happening at the moment and to be able to predict and or follow what is going to happen next. And those skills, they were difficult for me to master at first. And I would always think, how am I supposed to figure out this song without even looking at it or discussing it? But eventually, when I went to music school, and also when I attended the Arts Academy in my state, I discovered, by playing with a ton of people every single day, how it works. And what I realized is that spontaneity in music is what makes it so much fun. If only conversation were that simple, right? You aspies can agree. Translate that to conversation. Here's one quick thing for you aspies to think about. Are you making eye contact with someone when you talk to them? For aspies, this is really anxiety-provoking. Looking in someone's eyes is a lot to handle, and it can be quite overwhelming. And you have to be able to read the person emotionally and intellectually. You have to be able to see what they're saying to you. And that makes no sense. Aspies commonly think, how am I supposed to see words that are coming out of their mouth? How am I supposed to see what they're saying? It's all about intention. It's all about tone. It's all about the setting. It's very overwhelming. But for all you neurotypicals that think that we don't care about anything you say, we're all interested. We're all very interested in listening to you. And for me, I've learned that eye contact is extremely important in making a connection. And the trick for eye contact is to look in someone's eyes but not look for too long or too little. You don't want to come off as staring, and you don't want to come off as you're not listening. It's just that little shade of gray, which is probably the most difficult thing for an aspie to find. And believe me, I struggled with that tremendously. A lot of my friendships in the past that are no longer existing could have ended probably because I didn't look into someone's eyes enough while talking. That could be one of the reasons. I could have stayed in the black I could have stayed in the black and white. Many reasons. But we live and we learn. Life goes on. We're not made to be perfect. Nobody's perfect. Now this question in particular is a very, very strong misconception. And I'm going to start off by saying that this is, huge. This is a thing that every person with Asperger's has to hear maybe at least once. And to those that believe it, I'm not going to judge or degrade because I live by the golden rule. So the question is autism a disease? Autism is technically a neurological disorder caused by abnormal brain development. There is no true cause. But if I had a belief of what it is, there it is right there. You won't believe how many people have came up to me and said, "Oh, Johnny, don't worry. Your disease doesn't bother anyone. We still love you." And I respond with, "What do you mean, disease?" The fact that you call it a disease is honestly incredibly ignorant, and it lacks of true knowledge. Asperger's is not a disease, and it never will be. And it's just simply a uniquity of the brain. And then they will get offended that I corrected them honestly, and then I'll have to apologize for saying what I said. Guys, it's not a disease. It's not a bad thing nor a problem. We don't need to make life any more difficult for them. We need to make life positive and at the same time realistic. We don't want to live in a life of lies. We don't. We want to be truthful. None of us need to hear that we have an issue from any person outside of our therapist or doctor. We don't need to hear that. We don't want to hear it. And my favorite question of all, and probably the biggest misconception, which was just recently discovered. Vaccines are making children autistic. Now, just to make it short and sweet, so we can finally come to a close, for those people who actually have this type of logic, find an actual source from an actual expert that says autism is caused by a vaccine. There is absolutely no proof in the world that vaccines are the cause of autism. So put on your thinking cap, and instead of coming up with these ignorant and asinine statements, and also following these ignorant and asinine statements, realize that the brain is what is the cause of autism. Read. Simple as that. Read articles. Look it up. It's a myth. And this also leads me to another unrelated point. Parents, vaccinate your children. It will only benefit them in their life. You wouldn't want to lose your child because of a false statement like that. Trust me, if any person with autism got diagnosed with autism before this vaccine fiasco started on the uproar, why can't someone today be diagnosed with it? Like, for real, come on. It's as simple as that. Vaccines were around then. Autism was discovered then. Why wasn't it the cause then? Anyway, I just want to close this video off now by saying that autism and Asperger should not be looked at as something that causes potential issues, but as something that with some determination, brain power, and hard work can be transformed into something positive for the whole world. Life is not easy for any of us, and it is no easier for an autistic person or aspie. Here's a quick message to my fellow people on the spectrum. Never, ever give up. You deserve every bit of life and experience as much as the rest of the world. And you deserve opportunities. You deserve life. I want to be a voice for you guys when you guys don't have that courage to speak up, when you guys have that little thing holding you back in your chest where you feel that tightness and you just can't say anything because you don't want to get judged. I want to be the voice for you. I want to be a John Elder Robison or a Jesse Sapperstein to you guys. My main goal and value in life is to be content and to make everyone around me feel the exact same way. No one deserves to be isolated or alienated for any difference they have, and I promise every single one of you, my fellow people, that you will find peace at life. You are all amazing people beyond belief. You have no idea how amazing you are. Albert Einstein, genius, Asperger's. He had Asperger's. I could list more. You could change the world. And you're all very strong and natural fighters. And you don't need any hate. You don't need to worry. You don't need any of that anxiety that haunts you. together, we're going to stand as one. And we're going to make this world a much better place for us. And all future people that are on the spectrum. It's time that autism and Asperger's become a positive thing rather than a negative. And a scary thing as well. And there's nothing to be afraid of. To you neurotypicals, this goes for both neurotypical and autistic people. There's nothing to be afraid of. Life is too short and beautiful to waste it with an unnecessary fear of autism. We're people. We're just like you. We eat, sleep, drink, breathe the same exact freaking air. We look, we see, we don't look any different. I bet you if someone looked at me and didn't know who the hell I was, they would not know I had Asperger's. Why can't the world just be like that, even if there's a clear sign that they do? There needs to be more tolerance in this world, that's for sure. You're all unique in your own way, and you just keep doing you, because you're amazing, and keep improving yourselves, because the more you improve yourselves, the more happier you're going to be in the end. And life just gets better and better, only if you choose to make it that way. You control your destiny. You write your book. And I'm very proud of all of you. All of the people with Asperger's that are still fighting today and that are still just going on in life and not listening to any of those haters. And I love all of you. And I stand with each and every single one of you. That's all I have to say. I just wanted to thank every one of you that decided to watch this for your time, and I hope that this left a significant impact on you. You don't know what people go through unless you live it. Put yourself in their shoes. Understand that life isn't easy for them either. Thank you.